So in my last video, I shared some views about Christopher Wray, the FBI director, talking about the increase in threats towards houses of worship here in the US. And one of the questions posed was, could a Hezbollah-Hamas style attack happen here at a house of worship? And actually, only yesterday, the Attorney General also waded in on the discussion where he shared his perspective that we are receiving an increase in religious-based attacks. So I want to play the video of him sharing his views, then we're going to come back and break it down. Let's go straight to that video.
As the FBI has noted, we are seeing an increase in reported threats against faith communities, particularly Jewish, Muslim, and Arab communities and institutions. Last week, I directed all 94 of our United States attorneys' offices and the FBI to be in close touch with federal, state, and local law enforcement partners in their districts. Yesterday, I met with, and today and tomorrow, I will continue to meet with our U.S. attorneys and federal, state, and local law enforcement officials here in Florida. I have also directed our U.S. attorneys to reach out to religious and other community leaders in their districts to reaffirm our commitment to them and to assess what additional support they may need.
Now, I know from my last video, some of you are going to be saying, Simon, well, that's the Attorney General that you just played. But here's what I look for in information is I look for clusters. Now, where I reside in Minnesota, we're receiving information from our Fusion Center. We're receiving information from our SHIELD program at our local police department. And then we have this more federal guidance from the FBI and the Attorney General. So I know some of you might be apprehensive, say, well, where's this information coming from? And again, is this intelligence or is it information? But I'd encourage you, as you read these articles, look for clusters of information. Because I think what is quite clear right now is that we do need to stay vigilant in our house of worship. So I'd encourage you, as always, the most church crimes will occur in your parking lot. So let's make sure that we're talking to those volunteers that are serving tirelessly, helping our vehicles get in and out of our parking lots each week safely. But we're also going to say to them, can you look out for any vehicles that might look out of place? Can you look out for any persons that could be demonstrating a behavior outside of our baseline? If you see those things, please let us know. And then it's the same with our ushers and greeters on the Sunday, making sure that they're aware that if they've got a radio, if they don't have a radio, but please communicate what you see is incredibly important to the safety of the church, but you're communicating the things that you see that are outside of baseline. And then for me, which is always where I'm most concerned, is the threat to the church during the week. What happens when we're not a place of mass gathering, when the doors are open during the week, when we're more of an office setting, we're more administrative? What does the threat picture like then? So making sure that we're having a conversation with anyone that works into our church during the week to say, hey, these threats seem to be becoming more consistent. There's a theme. I'm seeing this cluster of information. We do need to be concerned. So as our house of worship, let's stay vigilant. And then the last bit I'd say is, I know I got a lot of comments about showing the FBI, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of comments about playing the Attorney General. But law enforcement are still our first responders. They are the people that we turn to in times of crisis. So here's what I encourage you to do is reach out to your police partners now. Have the conversation. Say, I'm hearing these things on the news. I'm reading these news articles where people are saying there's more threats to house of worship here in the US. What are you seeing? Are there some things that you'd recommend that we do? Or can you even just do drive past our churches? Particularly depending on the state where you are, most police departments are mostly doing that already, particularly if you are from the Jewish community or from the Muslims in a mosque. They're mostly already doing those. But reach out, seek advice, don't be afraid to ask, tell them what your concerns are to stay safe. And I want to just share a little bit with you in case you might be saying, well, we're hearing about these increasing threats, but what does that really mean? And I found a story which, for me as a father and a Christian, is really hard to talk about, where we've got a 6-year-old Muslim boy, a young boy, was stabbed to death because of his religious beliefs or the perception of the person. So, yes, people are talking about these threats becoming more common and they're coming in quick succession. But here's a story to show that this hatred, this fear is real. Now, depending on what your religious beliefs are, I mean, I wherever I see someone that believes in a higher power, for me, I have a lot of respect for that person, because what it means is they want to try and live the best life possible. They want to do things in their community, and they want to leave a legacy behind which shows that they cared, they mattered, they tried to change the system, and they tried to live their life by a code. So when I hear a 6-year-old has been murdered, it almost breaks my heart to hear that. So it really shows these things are happening. And then what we also had this past week in North Carolina, and this is very common before the troubles in the Middle East, in Israel, is that we're seeing an increase in threatening messages, particularly to the Jewish community. This is what happened here in North Carolina. And on the article, it actually says that prior to the trouble in Israel and the Gaza Strip, that they were already seeing a spike in crimes against the Jewish community in 2022. So this has just sort of escalated or increased those numbers. And then we also had some statements from the governor of New York, where she said that they're encouraging people to monitor potential targets and vulnerable locations. It reaffirms what I've said, that most police departments are already considering you at your house of worship to be vulnerable, and they're most probably already doing regular patrols around your house of worship. What she said, interestingly, she said that while there are no credible threats at this time, and I think when we listen to the comments from the FBI director and the Attorney General, they are saying, they haven't never said there's credible threats or there's not. They've said there's been an increase in threats. But they say here that they have seen an increase in online chatter around neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and pro-Hamas extremist group. Now, here is where I am most concerned. What concerns me the most is that lone wolf, that person who's at home, who has mental illness, who is seeing the news reports, is being indoctrinated in that ideology, and they feel this group would understand me. This group resonates with me. This group would validate my ideas. That lone wolf, to me, that is the danger. So those people in the deepest darks of the internet that get indoctrinated in this terrorist ideology and then come to a church and cause harm, those are the people that I am most concerned about. We really do need to be aware of the lone wolf threat. Yes, Hamas and Hezbollah, of course it's possible they could come to the US and carry out a mass attack. However, I believe, like the intelligence services, that it's more than likely going to be this lone wolf who's indoctrinated in some type of ideology that we need to be careful for and look out. Now, just before we go, let me put this up on here. I want to talk about, I'm going to make this bigger. I want to talk about the decision decks that we have. So in this testing time, when we need to be more aware in safety and security, and we have more pressures on us to keep people safe, these decision decks are a great tool. What they allow you to do, we've got 6 different decks on different themes. Each deck has around 60 scenarios. And what a lot of people do is they will just pick a scenario. I'm going to read one here as an example. A threat on social media. There is a threat on social media to confront the church about their views on abortion. How will you assess and manage the threat? So each different deck has a different theme, and there's scenarios in each designed to really test your critical thinking and judgment. What a lot of church safety teams do is that they pick a card. They will ask someone on their team, how would they respond? Or they might do it in a group setting. What I recently heard, which was super cool a couple of weeks ago, is that one security leader is using these scenarios as interview questions to work out where is this person now, what is their judgment like in critical thinking before they join the team. So this is something that might help you in your time of need. You can go to decisiondex.com, or I'll send a link below where you can just click and it'll take you through to the store. But as always, those are my views on what the Attorney General is saying, what the FBI Director is saying, and perhaps where we need to spend our time and attention in the lone wolf. But what are your views and opinions? Do you agree with me? Disagree? Am I going to get more backlash for playing a video from the Attorney General? Please drop a comment below. I believe all conversation is healthy conversation. So as long as we're respectful to each other, I love it, different views and opinions. So please drop a comment below. But for now, you stay safe, you have a blessed day, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.